Welcome to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I am Beth Cooper.
I'm Stacey Earlywine, and just enjoying the sunshine. Going to be a little bit warmer this week, and makes you wonder. I just asked a question a little bit ago. When is spring forward?
I don't know.
It's not far away, is it?
Ty or
my worst
Abby,
day of the
would you
year.
Google that, please?
I hate spring forward.
March 9th.
Whoa.
Okay. So that's coming up.
Wow.
Been a couple weeks. The
Yeah,
time
because
change.
where did February? I don't even know where January.
I am a
February
fan
went.
of not having a time change. I don't believe in daylight savings time
Me
anymore.
neither.
I think we should just stay on the time that we're at. And I know the people that love it getting, staying light longer. I don't know if you
Just
quite understand
stay.
nature. It's still going to stay
The
light
sun's
longer.
coming up when
longer
it's coming
because,
up.
Yeah, you make it or however you want. It doesn't really matter what the clock says.
Agreed.
You
Yeah,
still
I
get
ju-
the same amount of daylight hours. We're not changing nature. We're just changing the time on the clock.
I
So,
either
yeah.
spring forward this time and let it go.
I don't think they
or
need to
just
let it go on that
whatever.
one. They need to just stick to the
Leave it-
regular time.
I don't like spring forward because I feel like I've been robbed.
Yeah.
I lose an hour of sleep. I'm a sleeper, big time sleeper.
Yeah, I like to sleep too.
I like to
but-
sleep. I'm a 9-hour sleeper, and I don't like that. And I'm always complaining that Sunday morning. And every preacher is like, "Oh, Stacy's worst day of the year."
Yeah.
I'll even make a comment then on the 10th or the 9th or whatever. I got to make
Yeah.
the schedule. But
I'm not a fan of it either.
I never cared for it. It just never did.
Yeah.
I don't like that spring forward. Just leave it alone. I
Yep.
thought we were talking about that at one time. Weren't they going to do something about that?
Oh, they keep saying that, but they never do it.
Nobody ever does it.
Nope, nobody ever does.
Wonder what you
actually
need
follows
to
through.
And not everybody does it, right?
Yeah, some states don't. I think it's a state decision. I don't think it's like a federal, national thing. It's like up to your state, I think,
Yeah.
because like Arizona doesn't do it at all.
But then, like Evansville, aren't we always on the same time? I mean,
Well, okay, so
real talk, 'cause Evansville's not weird.
Evansville is Central Time. The most of the rest of Indiana is Eastern Time. The way that is because the county that you're in is who gets to choose what time zone you're in. So those counties that were along the line, they got to choose in Indiana whether they wanted to be Central or Eastern. Evansville chose Central. Indianapolis, all those Vincennes, they all chose Eastern.
Okay. Because Evansville, we're always on the same time with Evansville.
Yes, but
So that
Vincennes
means
we are
they
not.
so they must spring forward and fall back then.
They must, because we're always the
'Cause
same.
oh gosh, I remember one time Jim and I were flying out of Indianapolis and didn't even think about it and missed our flight because we were on. Yeah, I don't like that. I want everybody to be the same.
Yeah, or if everybody's not the same, then I need to live further away from a line because I don't. It confused me. I'm always like, wait, are they an hour ahead or an hour behind? And then I have to really use my brain and think it through.
I don't like to think.
It's-
And it kind of involves math.
It's a
I don't like
struggle.
math
Time
either.
zones are a struggle for me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I can handle a lot of things, but you throw different time. Okay, so for instance, in January, we flew out of Indy to Texas and then to Atlanta and then back to Indy. Okay,
my.
so we get to Indy and now all of a sudden we've left Central Time. We're on Eastern. So me and Mom had it in our heads like we're on Eastern Time. So then we get to Texas and we're still in our heads like, yeah, we're on Eastern. And then it's like, but wait, why does this phone say this? I'm like, of course, we went the other way. Now we're back on Central. Oh, okay, we're back on Central. Okay. And then, then you go to Atlanta, and then you're back on Eastern. And Indy, it was just, we kept hopping time zones.
Okay.
Confusion for
terrible.
4 days.
Have you ever been to Chattanooga, Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay, this side of the street here, you cross over here, it's a different time. You cross back, like when you're going up there,
Up
there's
the mountain.
that,
Lookout Mountain.
what is that? Yeah, Lookout Mountain, there's a little bed and breakfast that I love, and I just went blank. Oh, gosh, but anytime we go through there, I'm like, let's stay, even if I don't need to stay in Chattanooga. I love Chattanooga. And we stay at this place. It's got these little, you got to come out this main little Victorian house, and then everything's like little cabins that are all like, they're
fun.
like lavender and all this
Yes.
stuff in there. And you got your own little cabin, just a room and a bathroom. Love it.
Yeah.
Garden walk, bed and breakfast there in
That sounds
Chattanooga.
nice.
But it's just like, because we went somewhere and I wanted to go to this one winery, and they're like, oh, we're not open yet. It's like, oh, but it's nope, not here. It's not. Wait a minute. It was confusing. It was confusing, but a lot of fun. So,
Yes.
But then what else is happening? So February's almost gone.
Yes, February flew by. That was my birthday month and Valentine's Day and
Yep.
just seemed like one
done.
thing after
I thought
another.
January went really quick.
Yeah. So March is coming up. I have two
Jeez.
daughters. They both have birthdays in March. One's
March
turning
is-
20 and the other is turning 16. So that's a little crazy.
Wow. Oh, yeah. So she'll get her license. Excuse me. Got the
Yep.
yawns. My caffeine's not kicking in. So Chris is getting her license
Yes.
in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does her birthday fall on a Monday when they're closed?
Nope. No, I think it's a Wednesday or Thursday.
I think
but
that's funny.
yeah.
I think
No,
it's
she
funny.
got a good day. She doesn't
Is
have
she
to
ready
wait.
to drive?
She is ready to drive, and
I think I
am
saw her
so
driving with Malia
ready.
not too long ago.
Yeah.
Does she have a car yet?
No, not yet. I might go buy one this weekend. I just haven't made time to go find her a car. But
It's impossible to find time to do anything.
I know. I'm just honestly like a little bit too busy at the moment, but it'll get better shortly.
It will get better.
But
It'll all wash out.
anyway,
I don't have much
yeah.
to do tonight till we have practice for the nostalgia show tonight. So yesterday I had a doctor's appointment yesterday in Champaign, and I just hate doctor's appointments. But just threw my whole day off.
Yeah.
Threw my whole day off. Not a fan. But yeah, we got some house projects going on, and yeah, I don't know. Just I'm ready. I like my summer, so I'm ready. I haven't got my hot tub yet though.
Oh man,
I ordered
she
that hot
that
tub.
thing a long time ago.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know if I told the story about that, but my hot
think
tub
you did.
broke. Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks. But I didn't ask that day that I was.
I distracted you.
Beth came in and ruined everything.
I was like, check this out. It has a shelf. It has a cooler. All of this built in. And then she was like, okay, thanks, bye. And never asked any questions about when they were delivering it.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, well.
Yeah, because I wanted mine to have two motors for 2 jets, so they'd be real hard. And so, yep. Then it's like a week later, I'm like, I better call up there at leisure times and see, hey, it's 4 to 6 weeks. Oh.
Well, it's almost been that, so surely any day.
Well, weren't we up there in January? When were we up there? Because we went to the library in Effingham.
I don't know when it was, but
I don't know.
think it's time for them to deliver that.
I'm almost positive it's time.
Yes, and you'll be opening your pool soon.
Yep, Jim will be doing that. I like it opened in March, even though we don't get in it. I like that prettiness of the pool. I'm just nuts. Okay,
Okay,
so,
you got an ad for us?
yes. Do you ever remember toilet paper being patterned?
Patterned?
Well, guess what?
I remember it being colored.
Look at that.
Oh, you know what? That does kind of look familiar.
Lady Scott prints. Now, the gayest, easiest, thriftiest way to touch up your bath. Lady Scott prints. So pretty with everything. They make plain tissue seem old-fashioned. And then a smart touch-up with florals. Even with strong floral patterns, Lady Scott blends beautifully. Fresh touch-up with solids. With plain solid colors, a Lady Scott print makes a gay conversation piece. Gay touch-up with stripes. The Lady Scott print is at home with stripes as it is with solid colors.
And what magazine did you take this from, the year?
1965 magazine that I got.
1965, okay.
And they're priced for everyday use. Well, I hope you're going to have toilet paper for everyday use.
I guess, but I guess they were thinking, you might just want to keep it for
Yeah.
guests only and buy the cheaper for yourself.
Lady
but-
Scott prints, 2-ply facial tissue and toilet paper. I'm not going to lie. Whenever auctions start up, if I come across this, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
How fun. I'd love to have a roll of that toilet paper.
It's probably full of dye and chemicals and is
Oh,
the
of
reason
course it'd
why
kill ya.
everybody has colon cancer. I don't know.
Well, of course. I wouldn't use it because chances are it's like 40, 50, 65 years old.
Right.
So, yeah, I wouldn't use it, but hey, fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Very fun.
I would display it.
Sure.
I would just display it. So, but we're going to take a commercial break, and I don't know.
Okay.
Beth's got an episode. She's kind of covering me a little bit today.
Yeah, I
'cause
got some information on some former citizens from the past that I think are interesting. So
We
it's
like it.
a little bit of a hodgepodge, but
I love a hodgepodge.
me too.
All
So
right.
We'll be right back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. So I have a little hodgepodge of a show put together, and I've pieced it together from things that Pauline Colburn wrote about. Okay. You know, I talked about some of her writings before last week, and she wrote for the Flora Journal News Record. That's what it was called before, the Advocate. And in like the 1960s, 70s, and maybe the early 80s. I'm not sure. But she had all kinds of history that we hadn't really covered. So I'm enjoying pulling things from her little stash. But the interesting thing about her is that it was always just like tidbits. I don't think that there's any of her stories that I could just pull and be like, oh, this is a lot of detail and would make a whole episode. I mean, the Rice family last week I did only because I dug in a lot further and went with it on Ancestry.com and stuff. But some of these family names that I'm going to talk about today are sort of dead ends. So I've been researching them and really didn't uncover a lot. But what she has is the kind of thing I like because she talks about people's personal memories of this person. Okay. We're going to talk about the Kernsteins. Okay. Kernstein. Okay. And someone wrote her a letter. And it said, Mr. Kernstein had 4 sons. So they're starting to talk about the Kernsteins. Pauline's like, Kernstein? I've never heard of any Kernstein. So she pulls out the phone book, the Flora phone book, looks through it. No Kernsteins. Okay, so she's like, all right, well, maybe his descendants were females and married and have married names. I don't know. So she gives a shout out for if anyone knows anything else about the Kernsteins to write to her. But this letter says, I don't know any of, and it was written by a woman named Mrs. Ermovic. That's also a name I don't recognize. Okay, but Mrs. Ermovic writes to Pauline Colburn and says, I don't know any of Mr. Kernstein's relatives, but I remember him quite well. He owned and operated Flora's greenhouse. So he was the first greenhouse operator in Flora. Because we remember the greenhouse and the Schwanigers and stuff, but the Flora greenhouse has been around a long time. Okay, so Flora's greenhouse, which then was known as a hothouse. Have you ever heard that term? Instead of a greenhouse, they called it a hothouse. Well, it makes sense. I mean, like an actual greenhouse gets hot.
It does get hot. Yeah.
Hothouse.
Yeah.
I need my own personal hothouse in my backyard.
Me too.
Mr. Kernstein, he drove a small wagon pulled by one horse. And so she asked Edgar Hancock, who was the funeral director in Flora in those years, and said, do you remember this Mr. Kernstein? And he said, yes. He drove a small wagon pulled by one horse, and it must have been all of 17 hands high. And Pauline is like, I have no idea what that means. Sounds like it's big. And I don't know a lot about horses either, but I think 17 hands is tall. They measure horses' height by hands. I think 17 is high.
That's high.
So he had a little wagon, great big horse. Okay? But Edgar had a story about Mr. Kernstein. He said that there was a building that was being demolished, and the owners of the building said whatever was left would go free to anyone who could haul it away from the site. So we tore down this building. Anything that's there, just take it. Okay. So there was a bystander, and he rushed home. He wanted it. He rushed home to get some kind of transportation to haul off, I don't know, whatever it was, wood or lumber, cabinets, I don't know. A wheelbarrow is what he went after. While he was gone, along came Mr. Kernstein with his wagon, and he picked up every single item. Took it all. Took the whole
Really?
thing. So when the wheelbarrow pusher returned and found out what had occurred, he said, well, I'll be son of a gun. That's the first time I ever heard of a hog on two legs. His words really were a little stronger, however, she said. So he must have cussed Mr. Kernstein for that.
Well, let me just stop you real quick, because we tore down a house, and I've got scavengers there all the time. We've got caution tape and do not enter tapes, but I've got scavengers there.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah, they're pulling. There was an old man there, yes. Unfortunately, the house next door caught on fire, and the family lost their home. But, literally, that house is, and there's a guy right there. And I mean, these houses are, butted right up against each other. Yeah, and I came on like, Jim, there's an older gentleman. He's like, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. He's pulling. I'm like, takes the least amount of dumpsters I have to use.
As long as nobody gets hurt, because there is a basement under that.
Yep, that's what he knows. And that
Okay.
We've got caution tape and all that stuff. And we just walk. And it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. We have a lot of scavengers in Florida.
Wow. Okay, I'm not one of them.
I'm not. I'm not either.
Nothing there I want. Okay. So that's Mr. Kernstein. So that's all that she wrote about him. But I thought, hey, let's find out more about these Kernsteins, okay? So I found on Find a Grave.
Oh, yep.
Yep. So let's pull, and some of this I have stored on my phone, so that's why I'm going to look at that. So let's pull up a picture of his grave. We'll start
there.
there.
Are they at Elmwood?
No, they are not at Elmwood. His name was Anthony J. Kernstein, and his wife was Mary J. Kernstein. 1855 to 1925 is the dates for Anthony. And then Mary went on to live until 1941. The years that they operated the greenhouse in Flora, I believe, are from 1910 to 1920.
Oh, wow.
So way, way back. I mean, not just the people right before the Schwanigers. I mean, this is way back. So he...
Did you notice that their graves got flowers on it? The top of it. See, it's sketched in a little bit above the
Oh,
end.
yeah, that's pretty.
That's pretty.
So interesting thing about Anthony
Kernstein.
is that he was born in Poland, Leszyn, Poland, in 1855, and he was 70 years old and died in Flora in 1925. He's buried at St. Stephen's. He was married to Mary. They actually, I found out on Ancestry, they have 4 sons. On Find a Grave, they're only listing 4 or 2 of them. But there was an interesting story about him, so I'm going to read a little bit more about what I found out about our greenhouse owner in Flora. When he was a boy of 18, being of a courageous nature, he decided to try his fortunes in the New World, and he sailed for America in 1873 alone. Okay, so 18-year-old man decides to leave.
Just go
to the United States. He settled near Nokomis, where he began to farm. And then he got married, and they had 4 sons: Joseph, John, Frank, and Paul.
Okay.
But the mother, his first wife, passed away while all 4 of those boys were young. So that left him a single dad with 4 sons.
That's sad.
Later, he got married to Miss Nellie Osborne of Christian County in 1889. Let's pull up that stone again, because he's buried with Mary.
Okay.
So his first wife died. Then he married Nellie. Later, I guess, married Mary, because I don't think it says anything about what happened to Nellie. But in the fall of 1892, Mr. Kernstein moved his family to Clay County on a farm near Harmony Church, where they resided for 8 years. This is the part about the greenhouse. Being a man of vision, Mr. Kernstein saw the possibilities of an established florist business and accordingly bought a tract of land on East 3rd Street. Is that where the original one that you remember
Yep.
is on East 3rd?
Yep, it is. That's it.
And there he started the nucleus of what is now the largest greenhouse plant in this section. Now, I don't know when this obituary was written. I'm guessing in 1925 when he died.
It was
this is part of his,
really cute building, and then they
his-
had like the greenhouses behind it.
Okay. So it was one of the largest in the area for the time. He built one small greenhouse and a residence for his family in 1900. So even earlier than I said. I think I said it might have started in 1910. This was 1900. As the business prospered from their industry and skill, new houses were built until the plant reached its present capacity. So basically, he just kept building on greenhouses more and more. They they ran the Flora Greenhouse for 24 years with the utmost courtesy and square dealing, formed an acquaintance with people over a large area. Few, if any, were better known in the community than the deceased. So, Mr. Kernstein, none of us may remember this guy. I mean, of course we don't, but he's kind of one of those names that fell through the cracks, and you don't ever hear about him. And Kernstein's not a name around here because all of his sons moved away. Okay, so no descendants in this area of the Kernsteins, and he was a pillar in the community.
He absolutely was.
He started a
business that lasted for decades.
And I mean, whether you use that business on a regular basis or not, maybe not, but a lot of people, I mean, if there's a funeral, that's where you had to go. If you had a wedding, that's where you went. You know, almost every family in town was probably doing business with this guy on some level, you know. Okay, so this says, again, this is, I think, written when he died in 1925, but it says, something more than a year ago, owing to advancing age, they disposed of the greenhouses and retired to a new home in North Flora, where they resided with the respect and love of their neighbors until death called the husband, breaking a happy union of many years. So Anthony was a devout member of the Roman Catholic Church.
The Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, the Catholic Church. That's what it's called.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay. So,
I was like, I didn't know it was called the Roman Catholic Church.
yeah, it is. Okay. So,
Pay attention, Stacey.
anyway, so basically they got older, they aged out, and they sold it all. They moved to North Flora, which I think is probably around where I live. I don't know. I consider myself North Flora.
You are North Flora.
I'm like, Stacey's like at the far south corner. I'm at the far north. Like, I'm at the northwest corner. She's at the southeast corner. And it just I know people in cities would think this is hilarious, but sometimes it just seems so far to go to her house. It's like, it takes me 10 minutes to get there because there's 2 stoplights and there's like 50 million 4-way stops. This town has way too many 4-way stops. Like, they started using 4-way stops to control the speed of traffic, and I am 100% against that. I don't believe in 4-way stops unless there is a major need for it. There needs to be 2 yield signs, 2 stop signs.
Well, how you stop speeders is start writing tickets.
Yeah.
That's a whole other episode.
That's a whole other episode. And honestly, like, just let him drive fast. Okay. I've always lived my life like everybody should drive like they're on their way to a fire.
Well, not every.
And if you can't do it, then get off the road.
Oh, Beth.
Love me or hate me. I don't know. That's just how I feel, okay?
I don't want everybody driving like us, for the love of God.
Might be a better place. And what is up with so many people not understanding how 4-way stops work? It's crazy. There's only like 50% of the population of Flora knows how to do a 4-way stop, and 25% of the population in Effingham knows how a 4-way stop works. I've done the math.
Well,
it's not good. Okay, let's go on about Mr. Kernstein.
Keep going.
Let's see. He is survived by his widow and the 4 sons of a former marriage. Only one son could be reached as they live in distant places. So Paul and his wife, Georgia, were present at this funeral, and they were the only son that came, which I thought was a little odd.
That's weird.
So 3 of the sons did not come to the funeral, or at least are not listed.
Ooh, that's odd.
So then, but everyone loved this guy, but then you're kind of like, but his kids, I don't know. But it did say distant places. Maybe they were all living in Europe or something. I don't know.
Not everybody gets along.
Yeah. No, they don't. Okay. So mass, his burial mass, it was conducted by a Reverend Father Unterkostler. I don't know. Some of the Catholics in our community might remember this name. I don't know. The priest. Tuesday morning at St. Stephen's Church, a large number of friends and old neighbors were in attendance, showing the esteem in which he was held. A loving father and a husband, a true friend, an honest, God-fearing man has gone to his reward. His body rests beneath fragrant flowers that he loved, the offerings of his family and friends. And I bet the flowers were gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those present from out of town were Mr. and Mrs. Paul Kernstein, and then a whole bunch of other names that I have never heard of that traveled from Pana and Centralia and Sigel.
We're going to take a commercial break.
Oh, okay.
Babe. I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
And we will be right back.
Okay.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank.
We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online banking, just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be.
Clay County State Bank.
At Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County Farmers Mutual Insurance.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today we're talking about a hodgepodge of people from the past that lived in Flora and Clay County. I just finished talking about Mr. and Mrs. Kernstein, the first owners of the Flora Greenhouse in 1900 in Flora, a name that has been forgotten, but
We're bringing it back.
Bringing it back, folks.
Before you go on to your next person, where does the term hodgepodge come from?
I don't know. Ty, why don't
I
you
say
Google
that a lot.
I say hodgepodge a lot, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Google that, Ty.
Google that, please. He's the
Okay.
best. Ty is the best.
Ty is the best.
He
Googles.
sits in there and does what he needs to do for our technical stuff, and he and Abby both. If we need to, let's Google that. They're on it, man.
They're on it. 'Cause
Okay.
I'm not.
So the next name I'm going to talk about is somebody named Professor Grismore. You heard of him?
No.
Professor Grismore. Now, to me, he
What?
sounds like a character in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But he isn't. He is a real guy in Florida, Professor Grismore. And, but he was the superintendent of the Florida school system when a woman named Pearl Schroyer first started going here. Now, I don't know Pearl, and Pauline Colburn doesn't say how old Pearl was, but this was written in like the 60s, and Pearl was writing to her then, so it was a long time ago. And this is one I didn't really dig into because it's just a blurb about him, but he was the superintendent of the Florida school system, and he walked with a decided limp, and all of the kids were scared to death of him.
Really?
So I just wanted to throw that out there, like for the visual of a guy named Professor Grismore who
Okay,
walked
I'm
with a
closing-
limp and scared all the kids in Florida schools.
That is definitely a Harry Potter moment.
Yeah, it just, it really is. So, okay. So then Pauline in this article, she goes on to talk about now that the talk of a new bank in town is rife. I don't know what bank she was referring to, but she decides to look back at some of the history of another bank. And she talked to a woman named Bertha Gould Mayhew, who was an employee of a bank. And it was called the Citizens State Bank. And it was located, and she says, in the building now occupied by Montgomery Ward. So remember, this is written in the 60s or 70s. Where was Montgomery Ward? Was that down by, like where Lamone Hardcastle is
Yeah,
now?
I believe Montgomery Ward was on that side of the theater.
Okay.
Down that area.
Okay. Well, apparently that was a bank called Citizens.
Really?
Citizens State
Citizens?
Bank. And it ran from 1900 to the mid-1920s. Its president was Harry Barnard. The cashier was Charles Smith, and assistants Lou Little and Harry Michaels. Yeah, so I didn't know there was a bank there.
I didn't know there was a
Then
bank.
they moved across the street. Oh, well, then it says then the institution was moved across the street to the Stanford building. So apparently we weren't thinking of the right location. So Montgomery Ward must have been near where the gym is.
Wait a minute. Stanford's,
Right.
no, the gym is on the north side. Stanford's.
I thought the Stanford building was the one on the
no,
corner.
Stanford's the big one on the corner, yes.
Yeah, with glitzy girls.
Yeah, where Glitzy Girls at,
Okay.
because then across the street was where that big, beautiful hotel was at.
Yeah, so
where
that
Phil's
Stanford
at.
building, they moved it across the street and they changed the name to the Bank of Flora. So that was in the Stanford building in
We're
the
on
1920s.
we need to be on the west
Yes.
side of this.
Hodgepodge means mixture, a collection of things.
And it comes from an Old English term for mixed stew.
And it comes from an Old English term for mixed stew. Thank you, Ty.
Thank you, Ty.
This is-
Hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge. I'm using it correctly, and this is a mixed stew of Flora history.
It definitely is.
So let's just keep
We keep
eating.
going.
Okay. So we're talking about the fact that I didn't know the Stanford building was a bank at one time, but apparently it was the Bank of Flora. And then it moved again to the building that we still know as the Bank Building at the corner of North Main and West North Avenue. Actually, no. It says it wasn't that one yet. It was the one where Phil Wiley is now, the Edgson Brothers store.
Yeah.
And so the old hotel,
The old hotel. When it
First National Bank, is what it became. But then we all know it eventually moved again. But in the 1920s, disaster struck the bank and it went broke. A lawsuit for contributions and related matters among the stockholders marked the end of this bank's career. So when they
Yikes.
started the new bank in the other building, I think it was called First National Bank for a while, but it was a different system.
That's kind of scary. So that actually went broke before the Depression then, huh?
Well, it said during the 20s. The Depression was 29, so it
29?
could have been.
The start.
But little note about the Citizens Bank, it said it was nicely furnished with modern fixtures, finished in oak and strictly up to date. It has a interesting little. Okay, so now we're going to switch to another guy, and his name was Jesse Blackburn. Okay, he was considered an interesting character in Flora. So I looked him up, found out he was a. Well, first let me read what Pauline wrote about him, and then I'll tell you what I found out about him. Because I read this and I was like, man, I mean, really, these columns were history, but they were also a little bit like Facebook, and the fact that they're a little gossipy and a little bit like just say whatever about anybody. I mean, today I don't know that you would publish a fact like this about somebody, but anyway, she did
Let's
it.
do it.
Okay, she says, among interesting characters in Flora was Jesse R. Blackburn, who had a wooden leg. He spent most of his time in a saloon and never failed to arouse himself when anyone said, "Have a drink, Jesse." So he would sleep, and then if they said, "Have a drink," he'd wake up and drink, okay? One night, he was asleep on the beer kegs in the saloon.
Crack up.
Where some other drinkers sawed off his wooden leg.
What?
Then said, "Jesse, have a drink." He stirred himself, started for the bar, but hit that missing leg and went clear into the bar head first.
What happened?
These are mean people.
What
That's
happened?
bullying, and I'm not okay with that.
What?
I don't like a bully.
No, I don't either.
All right. Henry Bryant was another boozer. See? She just calls it, man. And you know, I'm hoping I'm not offending anybody's living relatives, but I will say I looked up Henry Bryant. That is not his real name. She had his name wrong.
Oh, okay.
Barely wrong, but wrong. Okay. His business was that of cleaning out and digging wells. I think it is a fact that they would kick him out the back door of the saloon into the snow where he would sleep all night. Then he gathered himself together and went out to clean another well. They called him Hen, and she said that he used to clean our well. The water would be taken out faster than it could flow in, and then everything, mostly angleworms, was cleaned from the bottom. Gross. I used to have a well when I lived in Horde, and we always had really good water. No real complaints there, but we never had to have it cleaned out, usually because it went dry by itself in August. But I would hate to think that somebody had to go down there and like scrape out worms, because that's
Ew.
gross. That's
That is
just gross.
weird. Where do they? Oh, yuck.
Anyway, I don't like to talk about worms, so we're going to change
I don't like to
that
talk about
story, and we're
worms
going to go
either.
back to Jesse Blackburn, the
Let's
man
do
with
it.
a wooden leg. Why did he have one leg? What happened? What did he do for a living? Why was he drunk all the time? Why was he living in a saloon?
Yeah.
The answers to those questions are:
Or what?
this man was a World War I veteran. He was born in 1895 and he died in 1974. So some of you
Ooh.
out there
I
are
would have, yeah.
maybe going to remember this man and maybe paint a very different picture of him. I mean, he could have been very different than how she wrote about him, but he's actually buried in California. I tracked down family. They all lived in California. So I suppose that's why he was buried out there. And Jesse, I am guessing, lost his leg in World War I. And thank you for his service. I'm glad that he did that. I think it affected him the rest of his life and may have had something to do with why he was drinking all the time. If he saw bad things happen to him, he was probably trying to push those things out of his mind.
Probably.
Let's see. He lived in Flora on North Avenue.
Okay.
And he lived with another family who had, I don't think I wrote their names down from the census, but there was a man and a woman he was not related to that had owned a home. Their grown daughter and her husband also lived in that home, and then he lived in that home as a lodger. So basically, he was just paying rent for a room. Mm-hmm. He's listed on the census as general labor, but unemployed. I think if there would have been disability benefits in this time of history, he would have qualified with his wooden leg. And I just feel like these are the kind of veterans that kind of, hopefully now I know there's programs in place, but it's sad when veterans who gave, like, he may not have died in the service, but his whole life
to it.
was affected and never the same again. That, now I think there are programs to help people like this. I know there's still a lot that slip through the cracks, but it makes me sad that, basically he really couldn't work and there wasn't, much, I don't know, he didn't have a family and later he did have descendants, but it doesn't talk about any of his kids. So I don't know. But anyway, he was born in Kentucky in 1888. Is that the same numbers I said on the other page? Another one said 1862. It's him. I don't know why there's different dates there. But anyway, so that is the info on Jesse.
This woman just wrote.
And it was fine.
It was fine.
So we've talked about Polka Dot before. We talked about his wife, Mary Polka Dot. For those that haven't seen those episodes, just a very short, brief history on Polka Dot. He was the man that went around and cleaned out the outhouses, all over town. And he was well known, and we covered him in the cemetery tour, and he had a dirty job. He was the micro.
He was the micro. He was the original dirty job.
Yeah, and then he had this wife named Mary who, God love her. When we talked to Margaret Duke and Margie Yingst and had an interview with them last year or the year before, they talked a little bit about Mary, and they said she could cuss like a sailor.
Yep.
Nobody cussed more than Mary Polka Dot. Okay. So this little blurb about her in the paper at this time was,
oh boy,
at the end of the Spanish-American War. And we need to look up the dates for that, Ty, because I can't remember when it is. At the end of the Spanish-American War, people were wearing large buttons which said, "Dewey did it," which was pointing up his victory at Manila. Okay, Dewey did it. Everyone had and I remember studying in school, like these big buttons that said Dewey did it was in our textbook.
It ended December 10th, 1898.
Okay. It ended in 1898, so way before Mary Polka Dot's time. Okay, right? Because she turn of the century, 20s, 30s. Yeah. Okay, but Mary Polka Dot, apparently still had one of these buttons laying around her house from somebody, and she was extremely pregnant. Okay, and she would walk everywhere because I don't think that she had a car. And so this is Pauline's memory. Mary Polka Dot, very much pregnant at the time, paraded up and down the street, proudly wearing her button, which proclaimed that Dewey did it. What a character!
I think I like Mary Polka Dot. Why did we feature her along with Matt Lovett for Polka Dot?
Mary Polka Dot could be her own.
She's
her
her
own
own
character,
skit.
her own skit for sure.
We need to take a commercial break, Beth.
Okay.
We'll come right back.
We'll be right back.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Pegel's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have galaxy bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Pegel Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting the work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
Give me all your lumber. Doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, give me all your guns too.
John Lucas.
What?
You better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. Zink Building Center in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. We are talking about a hodgepodge of funny history that Pauline Colburn wrote about. Well, I guess
The
not all of it's
stew
funny,
of Flora.
but the stew
That's
of
right.
Flora, mixed stew. Here we go. So I was just talking a little bit about Mary Polka Dot and her button that she wore when she was pregnant.
That's priceless.
But there was another mention of her on another paper here, and it said one of Flora's oldest and probably forgotten institutions was the town pump. Have you heard about the town pump?
Nope. What is it?
Okay, it was located on the First National Bank corner.
So is it a well?
Yep, attached to the pump by a long chain was one lone dirty tin cup.
Oh my.
From this cup, everyone, including Charlie and Mary Polka Dot, who weren't known to be the cleanest people because his hands were always you know where.
Yeah.
Passing
Not cool.
hobos, because this town was full of hobos because the train was zooming in and out, hobos every day, or just any thirsty person drank. Sterilization and sanitation were unknown in those days. Sounds horrible, doesn't it?
It does sound horrible.
She said, but I don't believe this community cup ever proved fatal. That she knows of. People died of dysentery and stuff all the time back then. Like we've seen the notes. Like, typhoid, all of that. You're thirsty. They didn't have bottled water. There wasn't a Huck's. There wasn't Dairy Queen. I mean,
and there wasn't water fountains.
You go into the diner, I guess, but like you thirsty, why would you go buy a cup of water when it's free outside? So you just walk up.
And that was.
And I've
where's
seen
that
this
at?
on the corner by the First National Bank. Now, I don't know if she means the First National Bank where we know it as now or
across
when
the
it was
street.
at the other corner.
Is there still a?
There's probably a well there still buried, covered with concrete. I'm sure they might have filled it in, but I bet there's
Let's
still
open
something
it.
there. Yeah, well.
Can you imagine?
I mean, the community cup. I've seen that on old westerns. Haven't
Right.
you?
Yes. Yeah, but I didn't. Well, it makes sense.
Well, I mean, for those of you watching, like Flora that used to be a dirt road. I mean,
I know.
at the time of the community cup that she's referring to, it was probably paved somewhat. But, our town did at one time kind of look like they do in the westerns.
Yeah, because it absolutely did. I mean, 1854. Yeah, I love looking at some of the old pictures of the dirt roads. Clay City was a dirt road. I remember seeing old pictures of that. Mm-hmm. That's fun.
Yep.
The community cup.
Yep. Community cup.
Wow.
Okay. So let me go to another one.
Yeah, I got this woman. I love this woman.
Uh-huh. Okay. So she's talking about the reservoir. We've talked about that
yeah.
a little bit on different shows because the reservoir, for those that don't know, is south of Flora. If you go down Main Street, keep going south, 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 eventually you get to the Public Works and it makes a sharp curve to the east. Well, back behind there is fenced off. You can't go back there anymore. The city owns it, but that is where the reservoir was. And I think there's still a pond back there. It's not really used as a reservoir, but you got to trek. And the train tracks that used to run north and south went through there, and the reservoir was used as a cooling station. The water for the trains, it gets complicated. I don't understand how they did that exactly. But anyway.
It was a nice place to play whenever you were my age.
Yes.
We rode our bikes down there. Incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, a lot of kids' parents did not allow them to go back there. There's a lot of deaths. There was a suicide. There was a bridge.
Yeah.
But it was a common swimming hole for people, especially on the south end. But unfortunately, a lot. I mean, we've talked about it in the cemetery tour. There's been a lot of people that have drowned there.
Yeah.
So
not the cleanest place to.
But this is what Pauline Colburn says, and this one was printed in the 1970s. One thing I do remember, and I'm sure many here also do, is the B&O Reservoir south of Flora. I suppose it is still there, although I haven't visited for many years. But it used to be a delightful place for kids when they could get that far away from home. Spanning the water, reserved for the railroad's use by a small dam, were heavy girders. On the girders were ties, like railroad ties, some 10 to 12 inches apart, and over these tracks were laid. Believe me, it was quite a scary business walking across the trestle.
Yes.
There were these wide spaces between the ties, and looking down, there were miles and miles of nothingness. Well, after all, it must have been all of 20 to 30 feet from the trestle to the water beneath it. After getting to the other side, there was no way back but by crossing the trestle again. After the round trip, however, you gained some kind of hero status. The reservoir also was a popular swimming hole, but I do think several drownings have occurred there. So, yeah, she remembers walking across that bridge. That's something I couldn't have done. I would have really wanted to swim because I love swimming, but I would have never been able to walk across that and not fall.
Yeah.
And jump over the gaps, even if they're only 10 to 12 inches. That's like a foot.
Much. It's too much.
Like I would be.
I do remember walking as a child.
I mean, that's a big enough space for a small child to fall through.
Yeah.
20 or 30 feet, and you would die.
Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see what else she talks about. This is the good part. So, this is a list compiled by somebody named Mrs. Anna Tate Davis. She was a Flora resident, and she printed this list in 1949. But this is what she remembers as a list of what businesses were in town in 1914. Okay, so she remembers it well. She compiled an entire list of everything that was in Flora in 1914. And I know on past episodes we've talked about what businesses were downtown. What do you miss? And a lot of them from the 1960s, the 1970s.
Not this far back.
Nobody went back to 1914. You know why? Because they're probably not still here to talk about it. But okay, so we're going to talk about Flora in 1914. This is what they had. One tailor, no saloons. Now I found that interesting. 1914 because
really?
No saloons, but I don't know. Okay, thought that guy from that might have been saloons came shortly after. Maybe I don't know. No saloons. Maybe she just didn't want to admit to it. 2 banks, 4 hotels, 4 lawyers, laundry, city hall, 3 garages, 3 dentists, 7 churches, sanitarium, which would have been the hospital, 2 city parks, a greenhouse, 5 restaurants, 4,000 population. What's our population now? 54?
54.
Okay, 4,000 people population.
Maybe a little less.
4 coal dealers. We don't need those anymore.
Nope.
Junk dealer. I wish I could visit that store.
Yes.
A planing mill. I don't know what that means, or if
that?
that should be planing mill, like planing wood. I don't know, but it says planing mill. That doesn't make sense. 3 feed stores, 4 rural routes, 3 shoe shops. I miss those. Bring those back. 2 cooper shops. Coopers make barrels. So they're making barrels probably for the apple trade. 3 newspapers. 3 panatoriums. Got you a panatorium? She says, I don't know what the heck this is, and neither does the dictionary.
Panatorium.
Panatorium. Ty, you want to Google that and see what comes up? It's PANITORIUMS. Okay, I'll keep going until I hear
Never
back
heard
from
of
him. There was also fairgrounds. There was 3 drugstores, a candy kitchen, 3 evaporators, and 11 social clubs. Those were your saloons. She might not call it saloon, but I'm betting that the 12 social clubs might have actually been a saloon. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's funny.
She was probably a teetotaler and like not for any alcohol, so she's like, no, we don't have saloons.
We don't have saloons in Flora.
Not at all, but we do have 11 social clubs.
Totally different ballgame.
Okay. Then she goes on to say we have 2 lumber yards, a harness factory. That's kind of neat. 5 meat markets. Could we at least bring back one of those? 3 livery stables, 4 general stores, 2 poultry houses, bottling works, a vinegar factory. Who remembers that? Nobody probably, but where was that? That's kind of neat. A vinegar factory. Doesn't Olney still have a vinegar factory?
I don't know, but I'm going to write it down. Every time you write something, I go to my trusty phone.
Vinegar factory in 1914 Flora. Ty, did you find out what a Yeah, okay. Panatorium. Okay. Then we had 2 fire departments. A
Really?
35. Yeah, I guess there's 2. I'm guessing one on the south side, one on the north.
Yeah.
Because of the trains that run right through the center of town. A 35-ton ice plant. We've talked about that on a past episode. 6 tonsorial parlors. Okay? So let's stop there and talk about, have you ever visited a tonsorial parlor? I have not, to my knowledge. Let's go back to Panatorium. What is it? Dry cleaner.
Wow, really?
I wish I could write to Pauline Colburn and tell her. It was a dry cleaner.
Well, what's the tonsorial?
Yeah, let's do that one next time.
What'd you say? What'd she call it? Tonsorial what?
6 tonsorial parlors.
Parlors.
TONSORIAL. Tonsorial. Is that where they take out your tonsils?
Well,
what?
Barber shop. So yes, they could take out your tonsils.
We've talked about barber shops on another episode.
As soon as I saw parlor, I'm like, I wonder if it's a beauty shop.
They could, whatever you need, hair, whatever, tonsils,
dental,
pull a tooth, they could do it.
It can happen.
8 grocery stores, a canning factory.
I didn't know.
What did they can? Probably apples. I don't know.
Probably.
6 clothing stores. I'd like those to come back too, please. 5 millinery stores. I love hats. A milliner makes hats. I'm all for that. They had 5 of those.
Yeah.
Business college. We've talked about that. 3 jewelry stores. Rod and Gun Club. Waterworks System. 10 insurance writers.
Really?
A Crispet factory. And Crispet is capitalized. Crispet, is that a cracker? Did they have a cracker factory?
How do you spell that? Because I'm writing it down.
Crisp, CRISP, and then at ETTE. Crispet factory. Right here in Flora. Who knew? So many factories. We had 4 hardware stores, 4 blacksmith shops. The school population was 1,025. We had a job printing plant. It's where you go to get your job printed. Don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Still going here. I only got a minute.
You only got a minute left.
2 photograph galleries, 4 implement dealers, a band, an orchestra, wholesale fruit firm, oodles of worthless dogs.
What?
A burial vault factory. There's another factory.
What?
2 veterinarians, 2 telephone exchanges, 5 building contractors, 5 real estate exchanges, municipal light plant, 3 city schools, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Wow. I had no idea.
She goes on. There's more. I don't have time to cover it all.
No, you don't.
I can come back to it another time.
Yeah, keep that in your little handy-dandy bag.
Yeah, my little handy-dandy notebook.
How?
Mm-hmm. That was a throwback to 1914 Flora.
If you could bring any of those back, what would you bring back?
The shoe stores, maybe.
I bring back the millinery store. I bring
the
back
millinery.
the hat
Yeah,
store.
yeah. I'd do that too.
Yeah, I would probably bring it back.
The shoe store would be nice. And the clothing stores. All that.
Yeah. I remember when you buy clothes downtown Flora.
Yeah.
It's where
it would be so nice to not have to drive everywhere all the time for every single thing. So, okay, let's end this show with something funny. What you got?
It's easy to sit and scoff at an old man's folly, but also check out his Adam's apple.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. What a goofball.
Goofball Jack Candy, deep thoughts. Gonna
Okay.
order another one this afternoon because I need to keep going with
Yeah.
Jack Candy's.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
thanks
I'll
for-
be revisiting them apparently.
Thanks for joining us for a hodgepodge of Flora history. I hope
was
you enjoyed
fun.
it as much as we did. So as always, we have a good time. You can always find us on Wabash Channel 100 Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. And you can find us on YouTube with, by the way, Beth and Stacey. And that's pretty much it for today. So
That's it.
thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
God bless you and have a great day.